Okay, today I'm giving you a full sales training on how you can get prospects to say yes to giving you thousands and thousands of dollars on a virtual meeting, which is pretty insane. Now, first of all, why should you even listen to me? Well, I mean, I've had over 1,000 sales appointments. I've closed over 75 high ticket clients, and I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've learned an absolute shit ton of value that I'm going to share everything. Literally, I'm going to dump my entire brain onto this whiteboard so you can have the best framework and the best script to close clients effortlessly. I'm going to show you ways of getting people to say yes that you will not have seen anywhere else. Like, it's scary how easy it is to get people to do what you want, because I'm going to be going over cognitive biases, psychology, and just, a ton of information that I truly believe that it can change your life. Now, let's get into this. So, this video is probably going to be long. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it's pretty much my entire sales process. So, you don't want to miss this. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, probably. And if I had this when I started out, I would have made so much more money. I probably would have done over 7 figures in sales already. So when it comes to sales, right, everything can be done before you actually get on the meeting. You can win the game of sales before even speaking with your prospects, which is something that not many people talk about. So the first thing I actually want to talk about, right, and I'll put a 1 here, a 1, is your mindset going into the call. Very, very important. So most people go into the call with a binary thinking or a binary point of view, which is basically they either want to close the client or they don't want to close the client. And the problem with this is that if you go into a sales meeting with the mindset of trying to close the client, then you're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself. And not only are you going to put a lot of pressure on yourself, the prospect is actually going to see you as needy, and it's just going to come off in a bad way, basically. So yeah, do not go into the meeting with the mindset of trying to close. You want non-binary thinking, which is going into the call with the mindset of, can I even help this prospect, or can I add some value to this person? And what that's going to do is it's going to put less pressure on yourself. You're going to be less nervous because you're simply just going into the call, trying to help the person or seeing if you can even help in the first place, because not every prospect you're going to be able to close. So very important, you don't have this black and white mindset going into the call, because at the end of the day, right, sales is a transfer of energy. That's literally what it is. It's if the prospect has enough pain, they're going to buy, but also you need to come across with enough conviction to actually make them feel like they're doing a good decision. So that is very important, and I'm not sure what to call this one, but I'll call don't know why the board moves so much, but game mindset. That's what I'll put here, right? So you should be able to see that, but I don't know why it's so at like an angle, but I'll try to write better for the next points. But this is very important. You go into the meeting with the mindset of, can you even help this person? Because otherwise you're gonna naturally come across as like you're just gonna close. And if that does come the case, then what you'll find is the more you push, so we've got push here. So the more you try and get the sale, right? I'm trying to think how I'm going to put this, but basically, okay, so let's say you're here, right? And you're like a stick man, and you're trying to push. Well, what's going to happen is that the prospect, which is here, is going to run the exact opposite way. So here you've got push, as you can see, and the prospect is going to go like the complete opposite way, because you can't convince someone to buy something. That isn't how this works. You need to get them to come to the conclusion in their own mind that it's a good idea and a logical idea to actually buy what you're selling. So it's not about pushing. And for any of you that have ever been in a relationship or something of that nature in the dating scene, you'll know that quite typically the partner always wants something that they can't have. But also, let's say you're a female, right? What you'll find in a common pattern is that they always want the boy that ignores them or doesn't respond back to them, which is interesting. And it's the exact same with sales. It's like dating. The people want what they can't have. So naturally, the more you push or the more you try and get something, the more it's less likely to happen, which is very important. So just by having this pre-game mindset of going into the call with not trying to close, it's going to make this whole process easier. So that is very important, and it's kind of like tennis. It's a constant back and forth, which that is a sales basically. But the person who can just stay and just like try to convince as much as possible is going to win. But you can't do it in a pushy way. And I'm going to tell you how you can handle objections and actually lower their guard and not raise it, because most people, when they handle objections later on in the meeting, they actually raise the prospect's guard, not lower it. So what I'm going to share, right, is that is just some general stuff you need to take into consideration when, before you go into the call. So that's why it's number one. Now, number two, right, let's actually talk about the whole, and I'm actually going to make this slightly smaller because I don't know why I've done the number one so much, but there we go. So number two is a way of lowering guard plus intro. So how do we actually start the meeting, and how do we set ourselves up for success? Because as I mentioned, 90% of sales can be won before you actually get to the end of the call. So how can we lower their guard at the start of the meeting and just give us the best possibility or the best chance of getting the sale? So what we need to do, right, is we need to, I don't know if I should just like rub out all of this and go for it, but the first 2 minutes of the call, this is what I'm going to cover right now. The first 2 minutes. So, let me put first 2 minutes. Most people start this completely wrong. Most people in the first 2 minutes, they talk about the weather. They talk about how's your day going, or what's the weather like over there, or what football team do you support? What on earth? Like, who told you to say that? Like, I generally don't know. And this was a mistake I made for about the first 500 sales calls I had. I made that mistake of starting the call and just having general, like, a conversation, just like nothing to do with getting results or anything. So what we don't want to do is what I just said. You do not want to start the call by asking them how their day's been and, how's it going and all that boring stuff, which nobody cares about. Realistically, the prospect probably knows that you're just trying to have a conversation to build a rapport and try to get them to like you. So yeah, it's pointless. A much better way is to skip the 2 minutes. The first thing you say when you get on the meeting is, "Can you hear me?" And if they respond yes and they can hear you and they've got their camera on, if they don't have their camera on, you should say, "I can hear you but I can't see you. Do you have a camera?" And most often than not, they'll turn it on. And then once they've turned their camera on, you will say this following sentence. And I'm going to write it down here so you can actually see. So I would say something like, well, let's say the guy's name is John. So I would say, "Well, John, it looks like you booked a call. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just writing this down to get possible help scaling XYZ. Is that correct?" So, to recap, this is what we say in the first 20 seconds of starting the meeting. You would say, "Can you hear me?" You would say, "Can you see me?" And then once the communication is all there, you would say, well, John, it looks like you booked a call for getting possible help scaling your business. Is that correct? And what that is doing is it's immediately getting them into results-based thinking, which is very important. We need to get them thinking about results and about their desires and about what problems they're dealing with. Very, very important you start with this. And what you'll notice is that it's just going to make them start speaking. And I probably should have reiterated this at the start, but sales is, I don't know where to write this. Let me actually rub this out. Sales, right, is 70% or 80% of them speaking, and you should only speak for about 20% of the time. So I'm going to write this here. So 80%, or the 80-20 rule. They speak 80% of the meeting, you speak 20%. So this whole sales process, or this framework, or this script that I'm going to give you is reversed, or it's engineered in a way that's going to get them to open up, speak about their problems, cause emotion, and then sell with logic, or justify with logic. That is purely what this is designed. But we need to do this, we need to ask them questions in a way that lowers their guard, which is very important, because if we raise their guard, then they're not going to open up and they're not going to speak. So now that I've gone through the basics of this whole thing and how to do the first 2 minutes of the call, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rub this out. And I'm going to actually write down what the whole sales process is going to look like. Okay? And also, if you want my exact sales script, right? So let me actually get this up quickly for you. But if you literally want my sales script that I've refined over the years to make the best possible one out there, you will not find a better script than this, I promise you. And this allows me to close at a 35% closing rate. I'm just trying to find it on my phone. That's what I'm looking at right now. But if you want, right, let me put it here. Okay, so if you want my exact sales script that I've closed so many clients with, all you have to do, right, is there'll be a link in the description. It'll be the first link probably. And you put in your email, first name, and I will deliver this script to you for free. Completely for free. I do not ask for anything in return, no money. And I'll give you my exact sales script that I am currently using. If you just want the quick and easy route. But I still recommend watching this video in full because it's going to teach you things about sales that you will not know already. So now we're heating up basically. So how it works is you've got the first 30 seconds. So 30 secs, put that there, is what we've just discussed. You've got the new way. So I'll put new way, which is, it looks like you want to get possible help, or whatever they filled out the form, is that correct? And immediately they'll start speaking. So then, on the timeline of this sales process, so the whole thing, first of all, I should probably say, is going to last about, let me put this here, it should last about 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to get someone to say yes to giving you thousands of dollars in 45 minutes, which is pretty insane. So the first 30 seconds, you now know how to start. Then the next 20 minutes, I'll put 20 mins, is going to be Qs, which stands for questions, obviously. So yeah, you've got your intro. I should actually reiterate that this is setting the stage. So I'll put set there. So setting the stage is basically, we want to, it's very self-explanatory. It's in the name. We want to set the stage. So you want to say something like, and once again, this isn't word for word, but this is pretty close because I've memorized it, of what I would personally say. And I would say, okay, well, it looks like, you wanted to get help scaling your, agency or coaching. Is that correct? They would start speaking. And then I would say, okay, awesome. Well, I've actually only got about 45 minutes before my next call. Typically, how these calls will go is I'll ask you a few questions. I'll get to know you, see what you're doing. Some people I can help and some I can't help depending on what you've tried and what you've done before, is it cool if I ask you a few questions? And that's all it is. That's all it is, really simple. So you want to set the stage, like what I just said. I personally like the line of, I don't know if I can actually help you right now, but I would need to ask you a few questions so I can see if I can help you. A bit like when you go to a doctor's office and you are in pain or something's wrong with you, and they ask you questions, and then they prescribe you the medication. It's the exact same thing with sales, right? You're asking them questions and you're going to prescribe them a solution, not medication, obviously. So that is important, because if at any point in this sales process, in this 20-minute period, that they start asking you questions, what you need to do is you need to actually acknowledge their questions, because you can't just move on. That's going to make them pissed off. You need to acknowledge. So let's say I'm asking my questions, which I'll give you the questions you need to ask in a minute. But let's say they start asking you questions, which means that now they're taking control of the meeting, which is not what we want. So you need to agree with them. You need to say, yeah, that's a great question, John. I'm so glad you asked, and I cannot wait to get into that later on. But right now, it would actually feel wrong on my end if I were to pitch you something knowing that it might not help you. So is it cool if I ask you just a few more questions? So you see what we did there? We essentially recognized that they had a great question. We said that, look, we cannot wait to get into this and explain it. But then you're saying that it would feel wrong on your end to actually pitch something knowing that it might not help them. And you can use the analogy of, doctor, if you want, and prescribing. So 20 minutes is asking questions. There are two types of questions you ask. You've got indirect. I'll put this here. So indirect, don't know if you can see that. And then you've got direct. So these ones are what I like to call direct, or we can just call qualifying questions. So I'll put qualifying questions, and then we've got indirect, sort of like amplifying questions. So amplifying, okay, I just kind of just cross that out. But now these two categories of what questions we ask, for the indirect, the whole premise is to cause emotion, cause pain, and for them to realize the problems that they're actually having. And then the direct are more just seeing if you can even help them in the first place. So with the direct, I always recommend doing them first. So if I get this thing here and rub this out to make this a bit easier for you, what you do, right, is you've got, let's split this up. So the first 10 minutes would be, I'll put qualify. So for example, you're just seeing if there would be a good fit. And then here we've got indirect. So indirect, amplifying questions. The goal of this is to cause pain, and the goal of this is to just qualify. I'll put a Q. Now, this is a very interesting topic here, because everything you buy day to day is because of pain, pretty much. 95%. Some things are for pleasure, obviously, but 95% of what you buy on a day-to-day is because of pain. Now, for example, if you go to the store, you buy some food, that's because you are hungry, basically, or you will be in a state of hunger. That is pain. It doesn't have to be physical pain. Obviously, I'm not talking about physical pain, I'm talking about mental pain, so you get the point. There's obviously way more examples. You go to the mechanic, your car's broken, you're in pain, your car's broken. You get the point. Everything you buy, think about it, is because of this problem. You're solving pain. Now, how can you ask indirect questions that cause pain because we don't want to raise their guard, as mentioned prior? Well, what we need to do, right, is we need to, and I'm going to give you, I don't really have space to write here, but I'm actually going to give you a few ones. So there's about 4 questions that you must ask on every single call, no matter what niche you're in or what service or what you're selling, basically. Now, these 4 questions. The first one is, what motivated you to jump on the meeting today? That is the first question you would ask in the whole questioning SOP, standard operating procedure. Because you can get 90% of the reason for why they're even there just by asking that first question. The second question you're going to ask is, what is your biggest problem? And they will tell you their problem. The third question is, how much money are you making per month right now? Once again, if they're in a bad situation or they're not making the money they want to make, that is going to cause pain. That is an example of an indirect amplifying question, because we're not telling them that they're in pain, we're getting them to speak, and just them speaking about their problems is going to cause emotion. And then the final question that you must ask, no matter what you're selling, is how much do you want to be making? So we're finding out where they are and where they want to be, but that is a very basic sales, like what's it called? Thing, basically. Everyone knows to ask those 4 questions. What's more important are the underlying whys. So I'm going to leave that there. I was going to rub it out, but I'm going to leave it there. So what's more important than asking those questions is asking, so you've got the questions, why? So when they say that their problem is, let's just say you're working with real estate agents and their problem is getting qualified leads. Just by you asking why in an inquisitive tone, very important, you ask this why in a, I'm not going to try and spell inquisitive, but I'll put curious, so curious tone. You have to say why in a curious tone once they tell you what their problems are or how much they're making. So for example, if you ask, how much are you making right now? And they say they're making $5,000 a month. And you say, okay, why do you think you're only making $5,000 a month? And once again, we're getting them to speak more. And that is how you do it. You do it in a curious, inquisitive tone. You don't say, why are you only making $5,000 a month? You see, there's a big difference. Now, sales is a lot about, I'm going to put it up here, if you can see this. You need to dial in your micro nuances. So the micro nuances that separate, that is the worst S ever, that separate a decent salesperson from the best in the world is the micro nuances around tonality. They know, great salespeople, they know when to pause, they know when to stop speaking, they know when to lower their voice to increase the importance, they know when to raise their voice, and they just know how to use tonality to get what they want and to cause effect, basically. So, very important you ask why on those 4 questions that I've given you. And that enough will cause a huge amount of emotion, which will do 90% of the heavy lifting. So, as I mentioned at the start, most of sales is won before you get to the price point. If you get to the price point, and just a common thing here, people think that the pitch is where you win the sale. You should have already won the sale before you even pitch. Before the prospect even knows what you have to offer, they should be willing to buy. Because you should have mastered this questioning part, which is the most important part, I promise you, by far. And what I do, right, is I actually put in a joke. So this is interesting, but I make people realize how much it's costing them not to work with me before I even say the price. And how I do that is, let's say they're making $5,000 a month and they want to get to $20,000 a month. I make a joke about, okay, so we're solving a $15,000 problem here. Is that right? Their name. The name is obviously, you would say their name there, because people like being called their name. That's another persuasion, trick basically. But that's a story for another day. And now they've got in their minds that 15k is the difference. So when you get to the price and it's only $5,000 you're selling something for, guess what? They're going to be like, oh, okay, that's, that makes sense. So you need to make them realize how much it's costing them not to work with you before you get to the price or even the pitch point. So in this questioning part, if you do this correctly, you've already won sales basically. But what you'll notice is that you're going to get a voice in your head. Well, I mean, not everyone has an inner monologue, but assuming you're normal, you'll get like a feeling of not wanting to ask these indirect questions, like what's your biggest problem, or even setting the stage. You'll notice that they'll feel like there's something pushing back and like you don't want to ask the difficult questions. That is totally normal. It's meant to feel uncomfortable, and it'll get better over time and you'll get more comfortable with it as time goes on, just like most things in life. But it's totally normal to feel a bit weird in this questioning part, because one of the reasons is everything you've been taught in life goes against what this is going to help you win, basically. So if you were in school, which most of you, or I hope you should have been at one point in your life, you'll notice that you have to raise your hand to go to the toilet, or you know that you can't really ask questions too much. So everything goes against what this will help you do, basically, and the money you'll make, which is annoying because you've basically had about, depending how old you are, if you're younger, it's better actually, because there's less to change, or it's been not as installed into you, all these beliefs, as someone who's like 50. So it is easier to change if you are younger and there's less work to do, but still you get the point. Everything you've been told goes against what is going to make you good at this. So it is interesting, actually. But yeah, that's something that you have to fight against. But once again, the reason I explain that is to make you feel like, that is normal, because it's something you haven't done before. You've been told to raise your hand, not to ask questions. So obviously this is going to feel unnatural, but that's fine. So yeah, you've asked the questions. Now we need to transition into the pitch. So this part here is the pitch. And the pitch should last about 5 minutes. Very important, it lasts 5 minutes. Most people, they pitch for the whole 25 minutes. You would not believe how many sales calls I have reviewed of beginners, and they literally pitch for like 25 minutes of the call. Like, what on earth are you doing? Like, there's no emotion, there's no pain built up. No wonder you get objections like, I need to think about it, or I need to speak to my partner. Like, no shit, you're literally pitching the whole time. And sales is literally like 20% you speaking, 80% the prospect speaking, but beginners, they speak way too much. Now, that is important. So the reason we only pitch for 5 minutes, right, is because we don't want to distract them, or we don't want to take away the emotion we've done the hard work building up here. So we pitch for 5 minutes, and in this pitch, you basically want to give an over, or like a, not too in-depth, but a decent description of what your service is going to do for them. End result. Don't go into the mechanisms too much. No one cares about your high-level like automations that you're doing on the back end for them, or this Facebook ad strategy that you're using. All the prospect cares about that you can get them from point A to point B. Imagine, let me remove this. So, okay, I don't really want to. Okay, screw it. I'm going to rub out this up here because I want to keep this sales timeline, because you need to know how long the call should last, and how long. And I'm going to rub out the micro nuances. So now we've got some space. So imagine I was going to draw a palm tree there, but I really don't want to draw a palm tree because I am absolutely shit at art. But imagine you've got an island here, and your prospect is on an island, and he needs to get to this island. So you've got island. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, maybe it's too high, but you've got island B. I don't know, maybe you can see that. And you've got island A. Yeah, I think you should be able to see that. All they care about is that you can get them like over to the island. That is all they care about. They don't care about how you do it. They don't care about what boat you use, or whether you are using a, yeah, you get the point. They don't care about the vehicle. They just care about, can you actually get them from point A to point B? That is all they care about. And that is done through conviction. Conviction. You need conviction in your pitch. And just like the 80-20 rule, when it comes to not speaking on a sales call, it's like we also have an 80-20 rule for your pitch. And it states that it's 80% tone and 20% what you actually say. So I'll put words, or your pitch. So it's 80% how you say it and 20% what you say. Because you can have the best script in the world, or the best pitch in the world, I should say, right here. But if you don't have the conviction, and you speak too fast, and you don't believe in it yourself, then they're never going to buy. So you actually need to believe in what you're selling. You need to have the tonality and the conviction, and that is massive, very important. So I'm going to leave that up there so you can see that. So in this pitch, we want to give an overview, not too much in depth, because once again, no one cares about the vehicle or the boat or whatever you're selling. The prospect just wants to know and have reassurance that you can get them from point A to point B, which is identified in the questioning part before. So you should, once again, repeat back to them what they give you in terms of information, because that's going to build familiarity. Just you repeating back, it's going to make them feel like you know them better than they do, or more than they do, basically. An example is, let's say they struggle with appointment setting. Just you repeating back to them that, okay, so it's appointment setting you struggle with. That is building a bit more trust and a bit more familiarity. But once again, that's like probably 1% difference that's going to make. This is like 80% of what sales is, the questioning part. The pitch is probably 10%, so that's 90. And then you've got the how you position the price, I would say, is very important. But honestly, what you can do before all of this, so you've got your meeting here, is pre-selling, which I probably am a bit dumb because I should have mentioned this right at the start. But pre-selling is also very important, because what this allows us to build trust, build connection and conviction in terms of the prospect before they even get on the meeting. So what you need to do is you need to nurture. So pre-selling is about nurturing with content assets before you actually get on the call. Very important. You need to, let me put it, nurture. Nurture with assets. That could be some type of free resource, free videos, free trainings, and you put that into the emails leading up to the meeting. So they are becoming familiar with you, and this is more important than ever if you are getting them or getting your meetings from outbound. Because if you're getting your meetings from outbound, the sales cycle is going to be naturally way longer because there's less trust. But we can speed up the sales cycle by having content assets in our middle of the funnel, and more importantly, our post-booking SOP, so our standard operating procedure. Very important you have assets leading up to the meeting and a post-booking landing page. So when they book on Calendly or Go High Level or whatever scheduling software you use, they need to get put onto a onto a landing page, which you can build on System.io or Go High Level, that basically says, thanks for booking, please watch this quick 10-minute video before you speak with me. And the first 2 minutes of that video is going to be you telling them to show up on time and in a quiet spot. And then the next 8 minutes is going to be going through case studies. And if you don't have testimonials, that is a more reason why you need this, which most people don't. Because when you don't have case studies, all you have is system proof, which is showing the prospect that you've at least thought through what you're going to be doing for them, basically. And that is important. You need system proof if you don't have case studies or testimonials. So yeah, before the call, nurture with content assets. But when you get on the call, this is how it's lined out. So you've got your pitch, 5 minutes, and the next 5 minutes of this is going to be them asking questions. So probably should put it there, but the next 5 minutes is questions. So right now we've got about a minute, so 21 minutes, 26 minutes, 31 minutes. We are 31 minutes into the call. And all we have left is the, I'll put the next 2 minutes, is we've got the price. I'll put up here, so price. And we've got the next 10 minutes will be like objections, if there is any, or just getting the, hopefully there's no objections, because you should have a good nurturing process and you should have done an amazing job at the questioning part here. Very important. So Objections. How can we remove objections? Asking questions, using nurturing assets before the meeting, pre-selling, giving them value, building the reciprocity before you even speak with them. Very important. So now, once you've done your pitch, you're going to ask them, so do you have any questions about what I've just explained? And then they're going to ask you questions, which is what we want. The reason we don't pitch for 20 minutes with a massive presentation is because it's better to give them less information and then they can extract the data and the information that they want than us to just flood them with too much information and distract them from the emotion we've already built up. So we ask them, so what questions do you have, John? And what they will do is they will ask you about 3 to 4 questions, and then the price question will come up. And once again, this is a very important part, and I'm going to tell you how you can, the best possible way to announce the price in a second. But the 3 to 4 prior questions, it's really important for each answer you give to their questions. So let's say you're running YouTube ads for coaches. Let's say the coach asks you more about YouTube ads. What you would want to do is you would want to have the answer to their question once again, conviction. You need conviction when you're answering these questions because you're really close to getting the sale. And if they're asking questions after the pitch, congrats, because you've actually got a good sales process, because if you're getting to this stage, that means you're doing something right in your business. Most people don't even get calls or get objections, so it's a good thing you get objections. But nonetheless, right, when they ask you questions after the pitch, have conviction, keep the response within 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and loop it back to the end result. So what that would do is you'd explain, okay, so the YouTube ads work like this, give them what they want, and then you would say, and that is exactly how we've been able to get such great results for all our other clients. Boom. You've looped it back. So make sure you give each answer looping back to the end result of whatever that is, or whatever your offer is, basically. So now, congratulations, because you're almost done. The price question will come up. They'll say, okay, so what's the investment, or what's the price? Now, let me explain how you do this. So when it comes to price, there's a few ways you can go about this. I always recommend a price anchor. I don't know if you can... Okay, maybe you can see this. So a price anchor. Or an incentive-based pricing. So incentive-based pricing, what is that? What is incentive-based pricing? How do you price anchor? So what you'd want to do is you'd want to have a higher amount that you would usually sell for. So for example, let's say you're selling something for $5,000. You would say to them, okay, here's how the investment works. Here's how the investment works. I don't know if you can see that. So that's what you would say. And if you want to go one step further and you want, a really good way of getting more reassurance before you actually tell them the price, when they ask for the price, you can say to them, yeah, sure. Before we get into the boring, logistical stuff, can you see this being the thing to get you from point A to point B? Okay, that's what you would say, by the way. And the reason you wouldn't say point A to point B, you would once again repeat back to them where they currently are to where they want to be from the questioning part, because we're extracting the information they've given us and using that in our language to build familiarity and trust. But the reason we say to them, can you see this being, before we get into the price, can you see this being the thing to get you from point A to point B? The reason we use the word can, I don't want to write that up here, but why do you think we use can and not could? Could you see this being the thing to get you from point A to point B? Or, why do we use can but not could? The reason is because can is more conviction. When someone says they can do something, they are saying to themselves, yes, 100% I can do this. Whereas could, that's 50-50. If you say, I could make food right now, you get what I'm saying. We need to use words that instill confidence into the client, because once again, we cannot get the prospect to, we cannot convince the prospect to buy. We need them to come to the conclusion that they can buy in their own mind, or it's a good idea to buy in their own mind. So now, once they give you an answer, hopefully it's like, yes, they can see this being the thing to help them. We then say, okay, here's how the investment works. Once again, the reason we use investment is because we don't want to use the word cost. The word cost has negative connotations. When I think of the word cost, right, it's like losing, or it's costing you, like it's an expense. It's not an expense. We use the word investment to once again get them into results-based thinking. Like what I did at the start when I said, okay, it looks like you booked on the calendar to get possible help scaling your business. Is that correct? Once again, that gets them into results-based thinking. Investment gets them into long-term thinking and also results-based thinking. So here's how the investment works. You would have a price anchor. Let's say what you're selling is $5,000. 5K. You would say to them, so usually it would be, I don't know why I just wrote an 8, but let's say usually it's 7K. However, what I can do is that for people who are able to take action and invest in themselves, I'm able to take away $2,000 and it will only be 5K today. How does that sound? So they have the 7K, or you can even make this 10K. And then you say to them, look, I found that people who can make quick decisions have always been my best clients. So what I can do for you, John, is if you're able to make a decision today, I can take away $5,000 and it will just be 5K. And then just shut up. Let them think. Most people start to like stutter. They're like, yeah, so it's 5K. We have this Facebook ads, we do this AI automation. Like, honestly, it's an absolute mess. I see it way too common. It's like funny, but just state the price with conviction and just shut up. You need to let the prospect think. And then they're going to have an objection. So now you know how to conduct a sales call. I'm going to tell you what you need to do now, because it's likely that they're going to give you some type of objection, or so now let's actually talk about objection handling. But once again, you shouldn't get objections, because you should nurture with assets, and you should have asked the best questions, which I told you, or at minimum about 10 questions, with the 4 questions that I stated before. So let me rub this out quickly. This is taking a while. Whilst I'm rubbing this out, you may as well hit the subscribe button for giving you this awesome value that I always do. So and if you're watching this at this stage, actually, so before we get into the objections, comment the word sales if you've gotten this far, because that is impressive. You actually have a good attention span, which is really good. Because most people would have clicked off like 30 minutes ago. So congratulations, you probably will have success in your life if you're watching this right now. But anyway, right, let's get into this. So objections, I want to write this in a actual good way here. Objections, something which you guys are probably terrified of. Maybe you can't sleep at night because you're worried about getting the I need to think about it objection. And I don't blame you, because I also am. I have nightmares sometimes about this. So realistically, right, you're only going to get 4 types of objections. You've got, and let me put a circle here, and let's put an O for objections. The first objection you're going to get is fear. The second objection you might get is partner. The third objection you might get is money. And the fourth is logistics, which kind of links to partner. I kind of spelled that wrong, but these are the 4 objections you will get. That is it. So now I'm going to go through every single one of them and tell you how you can overcome them very easily. So first of all, right, I just need to explain that objections is imagine you've got a person here. Let's say this is you, and let's say this is your prospect. You should be able to see this, right? And you've got a prospect. So imagine you've got a rope. So imagine the sail is, actually no, let's just say this is a rope, right? Like you're playing tug of war. I'll put this here, tug of war. Most of you probably know what that is. But essentially whoever wins, whoever pulls the other person wins, which is sales, right? Whoever can get the other person to do what they want wins. But imagine you've got a rope. Now most people, when the prospect gives them an objection, most people immediately start pulling the other way. And what that is going to do is you've got the prospect that's going to raise their guard. Raise their guard. It's going to make them push back even more. Because remember what I said at the start. The more you push, the more the prospect is going to push away. What you need to do, right, is you need to jump over to their side and you need to start pushing. You need to start pulling with them. You need to pull. You can't push your way. If you push your way, then they're going to push further away. You need to jump onto their side of the rope and start pulling as you're a team. So how we can use this, right, is any objection you get, you're going to use the three F's. Very simple. Feel, felt, found. Those are the three F's. The first one, no matter what objection you get, you're going to agree. I completely understand why you may have that. I or others have felt the exact same. I don't know what I just said there, but others have felt the exact same feelings. And to be honest, John, I would be worried if you weren't scared right now. That is an example of feel. You want to, let them know that, others were in the exact same position as them before buying. So once again, you would agree. You would say, I totally agree. It's a valid point. Then felt. So, you could give an example or an analogy or a metaphor. So you felt the exact same way or others have felt the same way. And then found, what you found to work. That is one way of handling objections. But I honestly prefer doing this, which is asking questions. So once again, when most people get to this stage and they get any one of these four objections or a combination of these four objections, what they start to do is start to panic and try to convince the prospect, oh no, you're fine, and they start speaking. Once again, sales is 80% the prospect speaking, 20% you speaking. We need to ask questions which is going to get the prospect to come to the conclusion in their own head that they should buy. So how do we do that? We need to, so obviously you've got these objections. First of all, this one, we can completely remove this one because this should have been asked before the meeting in the qualifying questions. You should put in your qualifying questions, do you have a partner? Or bare minimum at the start of the call, ask them, are you the decision maker? So what we can do is we can immediately remove this objection. This should not happen. Logistics. That is a common one, money and fear. So these are realistically the only three objections you should get. And all of these don't actually mean anything. Fear, they're not scared, they just don't believe in the service or they don't believe in you and you haven't given them enough conviction. So that can be removed by giving them conviction in the pitch. Or once again, saying to them, look, I'd be worried if you weren't scared right now. Right? So that is how you'd handle this one. But what you're going to find, right, is this is easier than you think. Right now, you're probably still confused about how do you actually go about overcoming these objections. But if you're getting the objections and they're saying to you that it's money, fear, or logic, then that's really easy because you just need to overcome what they're scared about or what their problem is. But what's going to happen is you're going to get smoke screens. So it's not as easy as that. You're going to get smoke screens, let me put it there, which are basically like bluffs. I don't know if there's two Fs, but you get the point. A smoke screen is, I need to think about it. Or, yeah, I just, don't know if it's the right time right now. You get the point. It's hiding what it actually is. So, smoke screens are what you're going to get at the objection phase. Now, how do you overcome smoke screens? Once again, you don't start speaking, you start asking questions. That is how you overcome smoke screens. Very important, you ask questions. And what this looks like is, imagine you've got a massive graph. I'm going to demonstrate this right now. So imagine you've got here a graph, and let's say they're not going to buy, so not buy down here, and let's say this is like they're going to buy, and let's put I need to think about it. I'll put I need to think, and I need to think. So at this stage, right, of the sales process, first of all, as I mentioned before, it's good that you've gotten to this stage. It means something's going well in your business. But next, right, this comes down to action thresholds. Very important you understand what action thresholds are. Each person you get on a meeting with has an action threshold. Now, an action threshold is essentially very self-explanatory. It's how likely they are, or their purchasing tendencies, or their purchasing behavior, or just their human behavior towards buying. Are they someone that buys quickly, or are they someone that buys after a while? Each person has their own different action threshold. So one person could say, I need to think about it, and they could literally be this close to buying, or someone could say, I need to think about it, and they are never going to buy. That's just how it works. So we don't know which point, that's the caveat, we don't know which point they're at. So what we need to do is we need to keep asking a question. So, okay, yeah, that's no problem. Once again, you agree. Yeah, that's no problem, I get it, you need to think about it. How long do you think you need? So what I did there is I'm temporarily getting them to think that they've got what they want, which is time to think. So I'm saying, how long do you need? Yeah, that's fine, no problem. How long do you need to think about it? Once again, I'm lowering their guard. They're going to think, oh, okay, nice, this guy, is like not like every other salesperson. Because most salespeople will just push back immediately and cause sales resistance. I've let them get what they want. So then they're going to say, okay, I need like a week. And then what you can do is, after they've given you an answer, you can start slowly creeping back up to try to diagnose what these 4 words here actually mean. Because I need to think about it as a smokescreen. It doesn't mean, that. It means one of those 4 other, 3 if you remove the partner one. Fear, money, logistics. That is only the only 3 it could possibly be. So we need to start asking questions. So the next question you could ask is, so I need to think about it. You could say, yeah, no problem. How long? So how long? Lower their guard. Then you would say, sure, just so we're on the same page, do you think it's the price or the service that you need to think about it? So you could say price or service, or what's better is you could just say, just so we're on the same page and I can help you as much as possible, what is it you need to think about? So what? And once again, make sure you have a curious tone. So curious. This one is to lower guard, so lower guard. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slowly start to creep up and try to figure out what on earth they need to, they don't need to think, so what is their problem? And if we keep asking questions, it's kind of like imagine imagine you can't get enough oxygen. At this point of the sales call, right, you're going to be nervous, you're going to have adrenaline. What you need to do is you need to stay composed, and each question you ask is like another breath of oxygen in a planet where there's no oxygen. if that makes sense. That was a weird analogy, I know, but hopefully my point remains, which is asking questions at this stage is like getting just a tiny bit more oxygen to help you survive. Because once again, you need to convince themselves that they need to buy. You can't convince them. So, once again, you need to start asking a few questions, creeping up, and eventually you'll get back to one of those 3 objections. And at that stage, if you can narrow it down to the price, so right now it's either going to be price, fear, or logistics. And I'm going to tell you right now what you do. So price, you want to remove everything else. So remove, that's the first step. If they say that it's the price, you would say, okay, John, that's totally fine. I get it. Besides the price, is everything else perfect? So what we're doing there is we're getting them to admit to themselves that everything else is great. They're going to start talking themselves into buying, but the price still remains. So then we've honestly given them a bit more confidence, or they've given themselves more confidence to buy. So now all you need to do to get the sale is offer some type of payment plan. Now you have to do that in a way that doesn't seem like you do this for everyone, because we want to make this seem exclusive, the payment plan. Most people, once they get the price objection, they immediately just drop it to like, oh yeah, don't worry, we can do 1,000 right now instead of 5,000 and do payment plans. No, you need to say something like, I don't usually do this, John, but I can tell you're motivated and I can tell you're the type of person that's going to get great results in our company. And I cannot wait to see your testimonial that after we get you these results. If I were able to drop the price, which I don't usually do, to be honest with you, would that help? Or could you give me a decision today? So you see what I'm doing? I'm saying to them, look, I don't usually do this, but I really want to help you, and I can tell you're the type of client that's going to get amazing results. So we're doing it in a way that seems exclusive. But first of all, you need to remove anything else. You don't get other objections after you lower the price. And if you do that correctly, you're going to get the sale. And I'll put a tick there because you've conquered that one. Fear. The best way to do this one is a story. Ideally one with humour. You need to have humour in this story. So first of all, you'd say, yeah, that's totally normal. I'd be worried if you weren't scared right now. And then you can use a story. It could be, you could ask them a question. Have you ever, or when was the first time you kissed a girl? And they're going to be like, what? And then they're going to say, I don't know, 20 years ago, whatever, depending on how old the prospect is. It'd be a bit worrying if they were, in their 20s, but you get the point. You ask them that question, and then once they have said that, then you're going to say, okay, and it was a bit scary, right? And they'll be like, yeah, it was, a bit nervous when my first time kissing a girl. And then we're linking that to the place of, look, it's going to be scary. You're doing something you haven't done before. It's totally natural. But growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And when you kiss girls now, are you scared? And they're going to be like, no. And then, boom, you've got the sale. So that's easy. Once again, you can use a story, an analogy. Those are great for getting people to think that they should buy. And then logistics is probably the hardest one. Because if they say, oh, their card's not working, yes, you could say, oh, how would you usually pay for something day to day? Yes, you could try and object that, but if they say that they don't have their card or something, you either do 2 things. The first one is you take a deposit, and if they aren't willing to do the deposit, then you've kind of just lost the sale. But once again, you need to use this deposit in a way that you do the price payment plan, so exclusive, and it saves. So it saves the payment plan, or it locks in the payment plan, which is important. And the second thing, worst case, what happens from leaving that call is a next call. So you would have scheduled another call on that meeting. Do not leave the meeting without a yes or no, or without next steps. I swear to God, if any of you watching this don't get a no or yes, a no is completely fine. It's better to get a no than a maybe. So for every call you have right now, you either get a yes or no. And worst case, you get a deposit. Or you set up another meeting on the actual meeting, so it's locked in. But that is worst case. It's better to get a no probably. But if they come from outbound, the sales cycle will be a lot longer, so it's totally fine to actually get a deposit. Just obviously try your hardest to get the payment plans first. So that sort of wraps up everything. Once again, the most important things are the questioning phase and the pre-selling before the actual meeting, because if you've read the book The Art of War, you'll know that you can win war or win the battle before you even start, basically. That is like most of the hardest part. So hopefully this video has given you some help. Now I'm going to give you some resources because I'm feeling extra generous today. The How to Succeed podcast is great on Spotify. You can listen to that. They're about 20-minute episodes by I think one of the guys who works in communication at Sandler, which is like one of the oldest selling like training companies. That's a good podcast if you want to get better sales. Another one is to record your meetings. Please, I swear to God, if any of you like don't record your calls, you're leaving so much money on the table. Now, listening back to your calls is like excruciating. It's honestly like stepping on Lego, but it's the best thing you can do for your time, because you'll notice that there'll be certain parts in your sales call that you made a mistake, or you didn't ask the question you were meant to ask, or you didn't pitch with enough conviction, and you'll be able to learn and get 1 to 2% better each time, depending on how experienced you are at sales. So you have to record your calls and look back at them once a week on a Saturday or Sunday or whenever. Same if you hire salespeople, which you shouldn't do straight away. You should only do that once you're getting 5 meetings plus per day. But you should look their calls once a week. It's the highest ROI activity you can do, I promise. So yeah, listen to that podcast, record your sales calls. Yeah, I think those are the two main ones. Besides just not looking at your script when you're on the meeting, try to have it like memorized. But besides that, right, if you came this far, please like the video. I put a lot of effort into this one, and subscribe, and comment something cool. And I've also got an actual offer for you. I don't usually do this, but actually follow my Instagram first. But I've got a school community, and in this school community is thousands and thousands worth of value for, I think at this stage, I'm not actually going to say the price because it might have gone up, but it's very cheap. Like a night out in London cheap. I'm not joking with you. And you can get coaching, you can get accountability calls with me, you can get actual community, done for you automations for free, go high level for completely free, like contracts, proven scripts. The value is absolutely insane. Like there, I promise you will not find more value for the price anywhere else. And I'll leave a link in the description. It's on School, which is an amazing platform. And I will see you inside, because if you don't join, then you're missing out on thousands and thousands worth of value for very cheap, less than $100. So make sure you join, because it's going to go up soon. And once again, I'll leave an actual sales script in the description so you can get access to that for free. Basically, you can just get my sales script. I'm too nice. I probably shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, if you like this video, as I just said, follow me on Instagram, subscribe, trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, and I'll catch you in the next video.